Thank you all for coming out. This is more or less bringing SparkTank full circle. When we were here in November, we kicked off a really great event that had a lot of really good presentations. And tonight you'll hear from the three winning teams about the outcomes of their projects. Either they're finished and they're reporting out, or they're still in progress and they will be giving us a progress report. So thank you very much for coming. And we have some special guests here tonight that I would like to introduce. We have Dr. Phelps, President of A.T. Still University. We have Dr. Gevitz, who is our Senior Vice President of Academic Affairs. Did I get that right? He's my boss's boss, so it's important that I try and get that right. Anyway, and we have Bertha Thomas, who is a member of our Board of Trustees, with us tonight. And we also have three of our judges from the original SparkTank night here with us. Gayla Sublett, Brian Krusniak, and who am I missing? Somebody. Oh, Clint, you didn't sit over there. Clint Normore, that's with us tonight. So we're really excited to have this opportunity to hear how it all came out. What did they learn? What kind of benefit did they get for others as a result of their projects? And so with this, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Phelps to say a few words, and then we'll get into the presentations.
Thank you, and thank you for helping put all this together. You know, it was a great event on both campuses, and a lot of feedback, board members involved, students involved, community members involved, so really something I think that was really a grassroots effort. Thanks to our students, faculty, and staff, and community members. But you know, innovation is so important, especially to academic institutions. But as we all know, innovation is sometimes very difficult to make happen because everybody is so busy, and budgets everywhere are so tight that innovation really has to be a workable solution for everybody involved. And so having students involved with faculty and staff is really key to A.T. Still's plan to be innovative and provide innovation and lead the way for other college and universities. We're coming up on our 125th anniversary, and so one of our slogans will be A.T. Still University, 125 years leading. And so we really do believe that, especially in the areas of osteopathic medicine and in the areas of doing things in a way that makes sense for whole person healthcare and makes sense to do for teaching and learning universities. So this is really an exciting time. So congratulations to those groups that made it to the final and were funded, and we're excited to hear what's going on, and it really means a lot to us in the area of administration, to our Board of Trustees. I think they're going to be they are very impressed with what's going on, and to Marcia and her crew who helped organize it. And I'm going to mention CNM since we left them out the other day at the forum. CNM is here, and all things rotate around CNM for the university, so I just want to make sure. Did Kid hear that? Kid, where are you? Okay, there we go. Okay, good. Oh, help yourself there. Thanks, Marcia.
Thank you, Dr. Phelps. Yeah, we're really seeing this as a wonderful opportunity to really speak about the work that's been taking place. And just for those of you who may not remember, each one of the teams had up to $5,000 of grant money in their budgets to invest in making their projects happen. So we're going to learn tonight how they invested their dollars, what they learned from that, and the results of their project. So we more or less have lined them up. Seth McIntyre is going to kick us off with the 3D modeling project. Then we'll have Shannon McAllister, who will talk about the 3D, 4D ultrasound project. And then we'll have Jess Rowland, who will be talking about Let Food Be Thy Medicine project. So I'm going to turn it over to Seth.
Okay. I'm going to use this.
No, you got it. Right.
Can you guys hear me? Is this on?
Yep.
Okay. I have a soft voice. So, thank you for coming today. You went to our presentation last year. You might recognize the theme of this one. It's the same first slide as last year. Shannon McAllister over there in the center, and I, for simplicity, we broke it up into two different presentations. So I'll be covering the 3D modeling, and she'll be presenting on the 3D, 4D ultrasound probe. And we'll both be here after the presentations for answer questions. So let's get started. So just an overview of what our grant, what we wanted to do, and what we have done. So in the original grant, we wanted first to purchase different things related to 3D technology. And we felt that a 3D laser scanner, which we purchased from Next Engine, would work well with the already existing 3D printer that we have on campus. And then we also wanted to purchase a program that we could look at digital medical images, such as CT and MRIs and X-rays. And then also the opportunity to use that program and convert it into 3D model, both digitally and physically. We also intended to supplement the course material with the 3D printing technology, and then also assess the effectiveness of these 3D models using a pre-post survey. So our project goals, we accomplished most of them, and we're working towards accomplishing the rest in the grants. We've purchased the Ostrix MD, the Next Engine 3D laser scanner, and then we're working towards incorporating 3D models into SP encounters, and also supplementing the course material with requests from students for 3D printing, and then also models that professors request for us to use to supplement their lectures. And then we've also brought all of so originally the 3D printer was in one room, and the Ostrix MD software, the computer, was in the creation station. So we've put that all in one central location in the library, where we have the laser scanner, we have the 3D printer, and then we also have the computer that runs the laser scanner and the Ostrix MD software. So our project evaluation, we've been monitoring the 3D printer usage using a logbook of students that can request or email us requests, and we keep track of what the models are intended for. Hopefully they put that there for educational purposes. Otherwise, we sometimes can't print different things that they request. So far, we've printed over 100 different models. And I'll have these available afterwards. These are just some of the prints that we've created for different students and different faculty. Which I can pass these out later on. Last year for cardiology, heart models was a big thing. So we can actually pull these from online databases that have these available for free, such as the NIH 3D Print Exchange. And I've also created a file that has all of the models that we have printed, and also have created tutorials and a file with sites that you can go to look for additional models. So last year I created larger models, and then I would also, to show the different vasculature and the different characteristics of the heart based on where you're viewing it from, anterior, posterior views. And then also ones, I printed other ones, smaller models, because we only print on a 5 by 5 by 5 inch platform. We can actually show the different arteries and veins coming in and going out of the heart. So it's great for orientation, supplements what we learn in anatomy, and it's a good aid when you're looking at, say, a 2D MRI, and you're going through the different sections, and just gives you a good idea of orientation. We've also done a lot of things for the dental school, so printing there's these molar models. One student came in and was pretty good at mesh mixer, which I'll talk about later, and he was able to create one of these using an existing model and customize it to what he wanted. So great study aids. So our project timeline, last fall we ended up going ahead and placing the orders for the Ostrix MD and the 3D laser scanner. We were also able to use some library funds to purchase an iMac because the 3D laser scanner and the Ostrix MD, we wanted them on the same computer, but they run on different operating systems. So we ended up using Boot Camp to switch between the different operating systems. That way you don't have to switch between different computers. And then in the spring of that year, last year, 2016, we ended up meeting with different departments and seeing their interests in what they feel we can do with 3D technology at the school. And right now we're printing different pathology models for congenital heart defects and anatomical models such as we're scanning a sphenoid, and we're going to do multiple prints of that for students. And then we're also creating a baseline questionnaire for the class of 2020. So when we do use the pathology models, we can see how that affects their test scores and their and how well they can go from 2D to 3D interpretation of the images. Talked about that. So the meetings last year, we met first with histology and anatomy, Dr. Kondrashov and Dr. Adams. With them, we're working on case studies right now. So it's the same thing. Last year we had a trial case study. I think it was just worth participation points last year. But basically, he would give us, in histology, a case presentation in this room where the class was split up into two different times. And we would work through a case presentation where he would give us the lab results and also some pathological images. So we're working on creating some 3D models and digital images, which we can create these case studies. And we're going to do a trial run this next semester in histology. For anatomy, we're printing off sphenoid. I've scanned it, and in the process of printing them off right now. And in pathology, we met with Dr. Finder, and Dr. Finder was interested in vascular models. So I'll talk about that slides later on. But basically what we did is we went on to the NIH website that has a hearts library, and we chose ones that correlate to her curriculum so we can print off the models. And then we can also have a complete heart model, and we can do sections through them so you can look at it at different angles. And we found a website where we can take DICOM, so basically digital images of the scans, and we can convert them to, we can do it in 2D with coronal, sagittal, and transverse views, or we can do a 3D rendering of it. We can take off tissue, add tissue, we can isolate certain structures and just look at them. And we can create videos of walking through those structures. We also met with Dr. Wilson for CODO and discussed and are continuing to discuss implementing 3D technology into SP encounters, such as difficult population with patient education. And we've been discussing getting third and fourth year students involved, because it is digital, so you don't have to be on campus to use this technology. And then we've also met with Lisa Archer and are creating also case studies for the HPS labs. So this is a picture of the location of the 3D printer. I'm not the best photographer, but yeah, so we have the 3D printer right when you walk in the library. It's right by the circulation desk. We have the iMac on one table facing the 3D printer on the other table. And then to the left of the iMac, we also have the 3D laser scanner. that we can scan. And we have the logbook in there, so people can come in there and print or ask for prints. So another thing we've done, because we have all this technology, how to use it, we've created tutorials and manuals on how to use, say, the 3D printer, or what's Mesh Mixer, how to use it, how do I import these 3D models into it, how do I scan something if you're not there, how do I use the Ostrix MD to read a CAT scan or something. So I've created 7 9-minute simple tutorials that walk you through importing and the different steps involved and using these different pieces of equipment. So Mesh Mixer is free. We use it for the different models that are object or STL file format. So basically, they're already formatted in a way that we can print them in 3D. And I can take them. So this one is actually from the NIH 3D Print Exchange. So I really like their site because they have tons of free models on there. I took that one of the congenital heart defect models, and I can import into Mesh Mixer, and then from that I can make I can highlight specific regions and make them transparent. I can make different plane slices through it and look inside the model at the different valves. And then I can also make it smaller or larger based on manipulation tools. And then can also view these on your iPad. There are free software on the iPad which you can alter and look at it and look at it on a mobile device. And this is actually from the tutorial or one of the manuals also that I created. So with Dr. Fender, we met with her, and she gave us a CV of her of her PowerPoint that would go over the congenital heart defects, and we compared it to the list that we could find online, free models, and we came up with 5 that we are able to print. So we're right now in the process of printing those, and we can also take the digital scans that correlate to these different models and create case studies from the radiopedia.com. We also have gone a step further, and actually today we placed an order through 3D Systems for a heart model to be printed off, and we're going to get 2 heart models. One's going to be a hard plaster in color, and then the other one will be a more soft tissue-like heart and it will be a cross-section through it. And these are based on DICOMs or an MRA that we got from a cardiologist last year. So the great thing about this, you'll be able to see the model, and you'll also be able to look at the scans using the Ostrix MD software. So you could look at it in 3D and digital space. You could hold it and look at it, and you could also look at it in 2D in the different views. And this is a picture of one of the models I printed off. One's a complete model where I didn't do a cross-section, and the other one's where I did a cross-section and then printed them off. So Ostrix MD, when we first got it, realized that it has a site that has free models available to use, and they already have been processed, so they highlight different regions of interest based on if it's a normal or if it's abnormal scan. And I have actually compiled a file with all of these and descriptions of all these, so we can use this with Ostrix MD. So when you open Ostrix MD, this is what you usually see. You usually see one view probably a transverse view, but you can select as many panels open as you want. I did 3 in this case. And then you can walk through the different slices of the image. And usually the green tells you where you're at in the scan. And from that, you can, sorry, the video does not work. So this is a video I did. It took a couple minutes just to walk through. You basically just go, you hit create 3D model, it creates the 3D model, and then you can, I just did a video of going through the different layers of it and looking at the kidneys. In this case, it was a aneurysm in the iliac artery. And they have, in this model, they had a pre and post stent placement, the different scans. So you can actually get a good understanding of what the aneurysm caused dysfunction-wise and how they fixed it. Does that come off? 1 second. Okay. So I actually took the model you just saw and created a 3D print of it. This is the back side of it. And just wanted to show, like, when we are doing the design these case studies, we're trying to get one where we have the scan and we're able to create a 3D model of it too. So in this case, you'd be able to physically see it and also see a digital version of it. Another thing we've done is use the 3D laser scanner, Next Engine laser scanner. For this one, we took these metal vertebral models, and we did a scan of these and created a replica of them. And great thing about these is that they're lighter and they're durable. They can withstand movement and palpation. Hopefully, we want to create a database of these, so you could go in, print these off if you're having trouble feeling the transverse process, which one's more posterior or anterior, because it's a very, very good study tool. And we did these for Dr. Degenhardt just recently. So we did L3 and L4, and we did high resolution 3D scans. Took about an hour to do. And once you get it, you have the digital model, and then it takes about 4 or 5 hours to print, and then you have the physical model. So our next steps, we're planning on printing the remaining models for pathology. We have 3 of them done so far, and 2 more to print. The 2 remaining ones just took a little bit longer to do because I was fixing them. Some of them had holes in the structure, and I just needed to modify them so they look better. And then we're in the process of purchasing the 3D model of the pediatric heart, which is a normal anatomical heart, which we're going to use in conjunction with the pathology models. And then for histology and HPS, we're creating the case studies right now. And we also are creating a pre-post survey to analyze the effectiveness of the models for the class of 2020 for pathology. And right here, down here, are what what one of the models will look like, that we're ordering. And we also get discounts on future prints too. So any questions? So we can do a 5-inch by 5-inch by 5-inch platform. So probably a little bit bigger than this is what we can print. And it's pretty strong material too. If you wanna, like it looks like it would break very easily, but it's pretty strong. And it can it prints what 7 thousandths of an inch, layer by layer. So can actually.
This is actually hollow?
I can make it hollow, or I made that one solid. So the printer allows us to print hollow or solid. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What's the size of the scanner?
The size of the scanner?
Yeah, how big of an object can you scan? Is it the same 5 by 5 by 5?
You can actually scan a lot larger objects. I haven't actually tested to see how big, but they say ideal is about 12 inches away. So I would think I could scan something as big as a skull. I've seen online where they've scanned. So when you scan, you do multiple scans and you piece them together. So I could do. I've seen where they've done scans of sculptures and large sculptures and pieced them together, fused them together.
Other questions?
I'm just wondering if this is being used in other medical schools. Is this, you could imagine this is kind of the future of, of a learning technique in order to help students?
Yeah. So when we originally were writing the grants, we looked at other universities and what they were doing. And there are some that actually have them in the libraries. Similar to what we have, and they're printing models like this. A lot of them do it in for like pre-surgical preparations and radiology, especially.
To speak to that, I think they use a lot of 3D printing specifically for, like what Seth said, pre-surgical planning, because like one of the models that we ordered today is flesh-like material, and those are for surgeons even to practice on before they actually do a complicated surgery. And cardiology is a good example of that because you have so many pediatric congenital heart issues with that. And so through medical education, there is some use just as study aid, but clinically it's definitely used in pre-surgical planning.
The first question you may have already answered is, are the pieces cataloged and available for use for other students?
Yeah.
And those that they were scanned for?
Yeah, they're available for all students, and we been trying to keep an additional copy at the library. So when they do create one, and we'll have it for other students to use too.
You also spoke about being fragile, so therefore some of them actually break. Is that plastic reusable?
I'm actually not sure if it's reusable. That's a good question. I would have to check that. I don't think it is, but I could check. I will check.
I want to thank you, Seth and Shannon, for your work and what you've accomplished with the project. Let's give them one more big round of applause. Okay, we need to move along, and Shannon's up next. So, do you want to use this one? Do you need these?
No. I already handed them out. So thank you all for being here today. I appreciate your company and listening to Seth and I talk about this presentation. Some of you do have handouts, which I'll be mentioning throughout the presentation. That's not necessary to follow along. So let's get started. And also I want to thank Dr. Kondrashova for helping us so much with this, because we definitely could not do that without her help and guidance. So let's see if this works. So first, to start with our project description, the funds awarded to us by SparkTank amounted to $5,000. We used that $5,000 to purchase the Mindray 4CD4 volume 4D transducer, which basically translates into a 3D 4D probe for ultrasound. And that is compatible with our existing ultrasound machines used in the clinical ultrasound course. Seth and I worked with Dr. Kondrashova to integrate the 3D 4D ultrasound technology into the obstetrics lab, which takes place in our third semester. Actually, I think October 17th is when we'll have that lab. So this exercise is specifically focused on utilizing the 3D 4D probe and interpreting subsequent images by comparing them with our 2D images that we'll also get during that lab using a different probe. So we will be collecting data from two different sources to create two different data sets. Students will be asked to complete a pre-lab as well as a post-lab questionnaire, which will be used to create the first data set. The second data set will use class averages for the fall practical. We'll be comparing that with the class of 2018, which didn't use the 3D 4D probe, and then the class of 2019, who will train with the 3D 4D probe. So the resulting data will be analyzed and potentially presented as a poster presentation, and we are hoping to submit a manuscript in the spring with the help of Dr. Kondrashova. Oh, that's out of order. Okay, there we go. So our project goals are threefold. The first, we wanted to integrate the 3D 4D technology into the pre-existing clinical ultrasound course that are offered to first and second years. We wanted to increase the accessibility of 3D 4D ultrasound technology through office hours as well as clinical exposures. And lastly, we wanted to collect data to analyze student interest in continuing ultrasound education, correlation with specialty and/or population interest, as well as effectiveness of using the 3D scanning in obstetrics to facilitate the clinical skill of translating between a 2D and a 3D image. So far we're on track. When we presented about a year ago, we thought this would take about 2 years to complete for Seth and I's first and second year. In the fall of 2015, Dr. Kondrashova contacted the grant office as well as the dean's office to complete a grant application, the internal approval form. And you can find that on page 8 of your handout. After ascertaining the signatures required, Dr. Kondrashova submitted an IRB application, and we were granted exempt status. And a copy of that is on page 18. So then finally, Dr. Kondrashova contacted the National Ultrasound to obtain a final quote for the probe. So with the $5,000 that we were granted from SparkTank, and then an additional over $2,800 that Dr. Kondrashova committed to the probe as well from her department, we purchased the 3D 4D probe. You can look on page 19 for the invoice. Very specific. So this is actually using the 3D 4D probe. And this is an image of the rib cage, anterior rib cage, and ribs here. Here's an image of the spine. This is actually of a 30-week-old fetus, so we can scan both the phantom obstetrics model, which we'll use during our obstetrics lab, and then obviously if pregnant people are around, we can scan them too. So this is a 30-week-old fetus, and look at cute little face right there. And so this is also using the 3D 4D probe to scan that fetus. Apparently, afterwards, he or she opened their eyes, and it was really creepy. But I think it's kind of cute right now. Okay. So where we're going, we're thinking about the fall of 2016 and the spring of 2017. In the fall of 2016, the fall of 2016, we will be administering the pre and post surveys to second-year students. The students will fill out a pre-survey before they come to the lab and then fill out a post-survey afterwards. And again, that will focus on the obstetrics exercise. In this, sorry, I skipped spring. So in the spring of 2016, that would be last semester, Seth and I attended a training session for the 3D/4D probe run by Dr. Kondrashova and a visiting 3D/4D probe specialist. We met with Dr. Kondrashova to brainstorm ideas on how to integrate the new probe into the clinical ultrasound course, which resulted in the decision to add an exercise with the 3D/4D probe to the obstetrics ultrasound lab. And you can see a copy of our current obstetrics lab ultrasound assignment on page 20. It basically asks us to find certain structures using the 2D probe, identify different diameters and circumferences of the fetal head. And then we also will be adding in very similar structure identification with the 3D/4D probe, and then asking them to, produce images and identify different structures. So this semester, Seth and I will be administering the pre-post surveys to the class of 2019. And after the fall practical, we'll create the two data sets, one with practical score averages and the other with the pre-post survey data. In the spring of 2017, we'll be analyzing the two data sets. We'll work with Dr. Kondrashova to produce a manuscript as well as a poster with the findings, and we hope to present at least one of two conferences. And our manuscript will either focus on, or I should say, women's health, rural medicine, or ultrasound in medical education. We're keeping those open, and the pre-post surveys will probably reflect what journals that we're trying to produce a manuscript for. So data collection, as I've said, we'll do a pre-post survey and examine the student practical averages. We've had a few different research questions in mind as we're looking at how to survey students, and one of them is just essentially interest in ultrasound technology. Do students think that they're going to use this in their practice? Does interest in ultrasound technology correlate with specific specialty interests? Does it correlate with people who feel that they are procedurally oriented? Does interest in ultrasound technology correlate with providing care to underserved or rural populations? And that's pretty important because I definitely see a future in ultrasound in underserved and rural communities because it's very inexpensive compared to other imaging modalities. So if students haven't kind of made that connection yet, that's definitely something that we would want to explore, and how to do that for students. And then does interest in ultrasound correlate with how comfortable the student is using the ultrasound machine? And is this helping students create the clinical skill of moving between a 2D image and a 3D image? It's something where it's not necessarily explicitly taught, but it's something that we have to learn as clinicians in order to look at 2D structures, move to 3D, and then be able to articulate and explain what these structures are to patients. So that's also a question that kind of goes through both of our 3D printing and 3D/4D ultrasound technology. So in terms of data analysis, we're going to use a few different statistical examinations, and we'll be using the statistics specialists at ATSU when we've compiled our data sets to make sure that we're kind of on track with our different analyses. And so we'll be using an ANOVA and a chi-square and then a repeated measures t-test along with correlation tests on the data sets. So we've discussed with Dr. Kondrashova what would be the best way to publish our findings. We decided on a manuscript hopefully written this spring and submitted to a journal focusing again on rural health, women's health, or ultrasound and medical education. And then finally, we identified 2 potential conferences where we could present the findings. And that's the American Association of Colleges of Osteopathic Medicine, or MAOPS, Missouri Association of Osteopathic Physicians and Surgeons. So we're looking forward to hopefully getting some meaningful data, doing analyses, and presenting that to our community. Are there any questions?
I think another area for your poster presentation to be at the National Associated Community Health Center Conference. We just had that in Chicago, and we had MOSDO and SOMA students present, but if you do have a link with underserved populations, that would be another area to do it. And then as far as the 3D and 4D ultrasound, and once again, this is may or may not be relevant to this discussion, in comparison to sensitivity and specificity of abnormalities or anomalies, is there a significant improvement with the 3D and 4D ultrasound? And once again, this may not be appropriate for this venue.
So versus 2D or just versus?
Versus 2D, yeah.
Okay. Well, Dr. Kondrashova could definitely speak better to
Okay.
that.
And once again, it may not be germane to this. I was just wondering, since, if the student is perceiving that the 3D and 4D is going to be statistically significant in identifying abnormalities and anomalies, there's a value to it.
Try to create that face, you can notice how well we can identify cleft palate. So it is noticeable. Some deformities, yes. And that's what students, we're not trying to teach them something difficult that they need to learn for years with ultrasound. But that baby face created by students on one of our student wives. And that was a couple minutes for them to create that face and look at the lips and nose and see that all face is fully developed. It's all good. That's what we need, just pre-screening for rural.
Jess Rowland is now our 3rd presenter.
Hello, can everyone hear me okay? Excellent. Okay, well hello, thanks for all being here this evening. My name is Jess Rowland, I'm a 2nd year DO student here. Through SparkTank last year, I was able to receive a $5,000 grant for Let Food Be Thy Medicine. And with that, we were able to hold an elective course, the culinary medicine elective course, in the spring semester last year. So this elective took place from February to May of 2016, and it was online based. The curriculum was purchased from Tulane University School of Medicine. They have a specific culinary medicine department at the Gold Ring Center for Culinary Medicine. It's actually the first medical school in the nation to have a nutrition component to their freestanding medical curriculum. So we definitely purchased it from the right area. And these modules took place for over 4 months in the spring. And each module contained the same basic components. There was an online video, which was in the form of a PowerPoint presentation, and it was a voiceover video that kind of gave an introduction to that specific topic for that module, as well as required and optional journal articles. And those were followed by a quiz online. And so additionally, the other component to this course was the in-class kitchen cooking time, the in-kitchen cooking time. So students actually met in a local kitchen here in Kirksville at First Christian Church downtown, and were able to come together and cook meals that were based on the module that they were learning about. So not only did they get to cook, but they also had a face-to-face discussion that was guided with case-style presentations, similar to kind of like questions that we see on our block exams here. Here is a picture of a couple students in action at First Christian Church. One of our students, Kelsey and Kimberly, it looks like they're doing some chopping. Over here we got like some guacamole going on. It's kind of a different take, and we filled the guacamole mostly with quinoa. Just kind of get it as a filler in there, and so that's exciting. So, like I mentioned, we had 6 modules throughout the spring semester last year. So our first module was an introduction, which that component was welcome to the kitchen and kind of what we're doing here, and basic knife handling skills, how not to chop your hand off so you don't have to, use the first aid kit. And I guess the main component of the first module, though, was the Mediterranean diet, and just learned all about the Mediterranean diet. The journal articles reflected Mediterranean diet. And then our second module was weight management, kind of with an emphasis on breakfast foods. A couple of the journal articles for this module included or emphasized like portion control and just the important, the effects of skipping breakfast on insulin sensitivity. Carbohydrates was our next one. Here we just talked about the importance of reducing intake of added sugars. And we also had a fats module, which talked about the importance of having a diet that's high in fat, or at least definitely not limiting fat from your diet. And patients who are overweight or obese or at risk for cardiovascular disease really emphasized the importance of why we need fat in our diet. And then sodium and renal was another one. This actually correlated really well with our systems-based curriculum. So these first-year students in the spring were able to take the sodium and renal module concurrently while in the renal block. So that was kind of cool. And sodium renal just talked about the importance of finding flavor without using salt. A lot of people oversalt all their food, so this found alternative ways to go about obtaining that flavor without, the poor effects of too much salt in your diet. So high blood pressure, we talked about the DASH diet for that. And then our last one was protein, and so this module focused mainly on the how to obtain protein like in a vegetarian diet. I think that was a really beneficial one for students and a really fun one as well. So here we just have the results from one of our surveys. Students were surveyed both before the course started and after the course was completed. And so the blue is the pre and the orange is the post. So students were questioned on the physician's role in changing nutritional behavior, and students, after completion of the course, felt that physicians did have a role in educating their patients on nutrition. Specifically, the topics were nutrition counseling should be routine, physicians should give dietary advice, and physicians have an effect on dietary habits. So pretty powerful, just showing that the students, after taking the course, definitely believe that educating their patients on nutrition is an important aspect. And so here we have a couple other students. I mentioned the quinoa guacamole here. Brandon's making that. Katie in the middle is making a tahini sauce. And then Dan has got chickpeas that he's sauteing over there. And so the chickpeas and the tahini sauce were made for the protein module, the vegetarian module. So looking at plant-based protein options, and it was delicious. It's called a chickpea Buddha bowl with tahini sauce. It was out of this world. It was so wonderful. I am so sorry I did not, but I'll get to that later. Yeah.
How is that, we can save it to the end, but I'm just wondering how that was judged. I can understand the first maybe 2 columns, but that third column would be interesting, but we don't have to do it at the moment. I just didn't want to, in my mind, I don't have a handout, so I'd probably forget it.
So I believe like what would make that clarified would just be like it's the student's belief that physicians do in fact have an effect on dietary habits of their patients. So by feeling confident enough to counsel your patient on proper dietary habits, that will have an effect on the patient's health and their choices they make. Does that make sense?
It does. It was just that I figured there was something in that course or modular component that addressed that. That's the most difficult, I think, to analyze what you're doing.
Okay. And so here we have, again, pre and post, asking students in the past 6 months the types of foods that they've consumed. The results from this, may or may not be of the most importance from our results obtained, but really, just from looking at this, students, after taking the course, were actually eating more monounsaturated fats, more whole grains, more fish, and less red and processed meats. So I feel like most of those results are, concurrent with the modules that we were exposed to, and but again, the post results were taken about during finals time, and so I'm not sure that would be the best time to ask a medical student their dietary preferences. Here is a collage of pictures, and we had Kelly come to the kitchen one night, and it was wonderful. He got a bunch of great shots of all the fun we were having. So bottom left, here's that chickpea Buddha bowl I was talking about prior to the tahini sauce, just loaded with veggies, all protein. Here again is from our vegetarian model. This is our black bean quesadillas. And then over on the far right is a homemade mango salsa. And then there's the quinoa guac up top. So here's some more results. These are all specific to a module or a diet that we covered in the course. And so we asked students both before and after the course to rank their confidence level in educating patients about the Mediterranean diet, so our first module. So prior to this elective, 40% of students did not feel confident educating patients about the Mediterranean diet. And then following completion of the course, 60% of students felt either mostly or totally comfortable or confident educating patients on the Mediterranean diet. So I think that speaks to a lot. The Mediterranean diet was something that we focused on for the introduction, but also kind of like throughout the course. The importance of fat, again. The same thing was done with the DASH diet. This was mainly used in our renal module for sodium. And again, prior to the course, 60% of students claimed that they felt not at all confident educating patients about the DASH diet. And then after completion of the course, 70% of students felt mostly or totally confident educating patients on the DASH diet. And again, with the vegetarian diet, so this was our protein module, prior to the course, 60% of students felt not at all confident educating patients about the vegetarian diet, but following completion of the course, 60% of students felt mostly or totally confident educating patients on the vegetarian diet. And then we did the same with a high protein, high fat diet, so low carb. The students were evaluated before and after, and before with 60% felt not at all confident. After the completion of the course, we had about around 50% of students felt mostly confident educating patients on a high protein, high fat diet. The course evaluation was completed, and it's the same as our course evaluations of all of them. So 1 is strongly agree and 5 is strongly disagree. For course expectations are clear. It was rated as a 1.2. The course is well planned and organized, a 1.4. And achievement in this course advances me toward becoming a competent physician, 1.0. So students definitely believe that this course has enabled them to become a more competent physician. And just to kind of review a few of the points that the data results showed, the student belief that physicians should discuss dietary habits actually increased. So students do believe that as a physician, we should be giving dietary advice to patients. Student eating behavior did not change dramatically. Just again, that was a graph with students' eating behaviors. Student confidence in educating patients on important nutritional topics increased. So now students are feeling more confident about educating patients on some of the bigger types of diets for different pathologies. So Mediterranean diet and DASH diet and a vegetarian diet. Students felt more confident after the completion of the course on how to educate patients on exactly what it means to follow a diet like that. And lastly, students love the course and believe it's practice relevant. It's definitely difficult to go from a journal article on the Mediterranean diet to how am I going to tell my patient what this means. And I think a lot of the students, that was kind of what they took the most away from it, was break it down really simple without overwhelming someone who, isn't a medical connoisseur. So. For the future, Tulane is offering, we lease a curriculum from Tulane University for a year, and so we currently have the curriculum until December or January of this upcoming year. And with that, we were able to hold the course one more time right now, actually, for the fall semester. And due to the cost of the curriculum lease, we won't be offering the course in the future. It's just not sustainable for $3,000 a year. The cooking space at First Christian Church is $100 per cooking session, and so with 6 sessions at $600. And then the food and supplies total to be about $1,000. The supplies obviously can be reused. The food is used and eaten, so that will not be reused. And so that's, again, for the food, about $100 a session, and with 6 sessions, about $600. So our current class this semester began August 25th. There's about 20 students, second-year students. So actually the same group of students that had the opportunity to take the course in the spring last year got, I guess, a second opportunity to sign up. And so we got a fresh batch of 20 more students who are interested in becoming more competent physicians. There's that chickpea Buddha bowl again. Keeps coming back because it's that good. So I guess some hopes and dreams, some aspirations for the future. Currently, we're working with basic science faculty members, and we're trying to find ways to make this our own, make a culinary medicine type of elective here on ATSU campus that is ours and so that we don't have to pay to lease every year. The course was absolutely wonderful and very valuable, but it definitely had room for improvement. It wasn't perfect. And Tulane University is an MD program, and we are a DO program. I feel like we can make it better. So that's what we're currently working on right now. Future students will have to be charged for the course in order to allow it to be sustained. That's kind of how all electives at ATSU, I believe, work. So, you know, the space, the food, and the supplies, it might kind of seem overwhelming with the numbers, but in case you don't believe me, I'll just break it down real quick. So with the kitchen being $100 a session, 6 sessions, $600, and food being $100 a class, so 6 classes, $600. And let's see, if we're offering it once in the fall and once in the spring, so that's 2 times, around 20 students will take it each time, so 20 in the fall, 20 in the spring. So that's 40 students a year who would take this course, and around $3,200 without paying Tulane for the curriculum, because we will hopefully have designed our own. So 3,200 divided by 40, about $80. So $80 a student. I almost guarantee you we could find 20 people who would be willing to do that. So pretty affordable, really, when it comes down to it. And so finally, thank you, lots of thank yous, because this was a tremendous undertaking with like a lot of help. So thank you, SparkTank, for allowing us to fund the project in the first place. And also the course, it was an online course. We met in the kitchen, however, and the course needed faculty. So we had Dr. Trish Sexton and Dr. Middlemas were our course instructors, and they were there every week in the kitchen helping us. And during our guided face-to-face discussions, they threw in clinical insights and things that from their lectures that they were familiar with. They threw in a lot of input there. And so also we had a student enrolled in the course who their significant other was a chef, Jared, and so he was able to be at, I think, 5 of our 6 modules, and that was another part of our breakdown of expenses. Actually, was we paid a stipend to Jared for being in attendance at all of our sessions and really just teaching students a lot about the culinary aspect of cooking and how to julienne an onion, for example. It was really cool. So he saved a lot of fingers, hopefully. And obviously, thank you to the students here at ATSU and the faculty for their interest in the course, because it definitely would not have been a success without interest. So with that, I think, any questions?
Yes, thank you. This is a fascinating topic, and I appreciate you taking it on. I had a question and a comment. The comment is in terms of the competence and moving more towards our model of cultural proficiency. One of the root causes of health disparities is access for underserved populations, access to quality food, access to the store where quality food is located. So the question is, during these encounters, did you have any opportunity to discuss with the students how best to maybe manage purchasing foods or where to get foods that are quality from a place where most underserved populations would likely go, like a Walmart or something along those lines?
That's a really great question. Currently, the future of this course is really unlimited. We we were able to take what Tulane had already established, kind of the core outline of their curriculum, and we used every bit of it. But the future, really the course can go any direction that the students want it to. So that's the great thing about it, I think, is we're getting a lot of student input on like what it is about nutrition that they want to see and what do you think is going to be the most beneficial for patients. So, but to get back to what you were saying, one of the ideas that a student proposed for the future of this course was having a little bit more interactive module. So currently the way we've designed it is a student kind of runs the course. So last semester I didn't really take part in the cooking aspect of the course. I organized like what supplies we needed for the kitchen this week, and I went and bought all those and had them at the kitchen ready. So every week it was like that. The students would come to the kitchen and everything was there ready to go, which worked fine. But in the future, I think something that could be very valuable for students is having a case study where they're given, a family of 4, this is their budget, provide a meal plan for the week, and go obtain the food in any fashion that you can, but you're on a budget, so you have to do it to the best of your ability. And I think that provides a little bit more, real-world application, because probably a large complaint that patients who are trying to eat healthy and maybe failing to do so is that they are short on money. It's expensive. So I think finding ways to make food for multiple members of the family for a week would be a good asset and kind of help that. Yeah.
I just had a question with regard to the recall. As far as 6 months back is difficult. Most subjects recalling what they ate yesterday is kind of difficult. I was wondering if there would be a better way to measure change of behavior. Is there any data on how long people would need to recall back in order to determine their eating patterns? Is it a month, 2 months, 6 months?
That's a really good question.
And if there was a time, for instance, maybe it'd be a month, 2 months, you could maybe, to be a requirement to enter the course, is that they would have to keep a food journal for the 2 months prior to the course and then after the course to get their grade. And so there might be a way to measure behavior in a more less recall-based type of approach.
The survey was not ours. It's part of the Tulane curriculum, so we didn't have any control. Again, being part of leasing the curriculum and having this opportunity, which has been so excellent to kind of get us started, meant we're also part of the whole research consortium. So we can't publish anything independent of Tulane, and we couldn't ask any of our own questions other than the course evaluation. So that survey was pushed to us, but I agree, you use different dietary recall methods for different patient populations, depending on the situation, and the past 6 months actually overlapped, the 2 timeframes overlapped given the length of our course. So that didn't make a whole lot of sense. And that's why I think Jess didn't spend too much time on that slide. But I think all of these different topics, we've learned so much from what they've put in place. And we're going to kind of jump off there and see what comes next.
That's the advantage of developing your own curriculum now based on what you've learned, so that's great.
To state the obvious, that this would be a great interprofessional type of activity to go across the campuses with all of our different programs, because athletic training needs that information, et cetera. So, I think we'd be happy to help with course development at the strategic planning level to say, can we create a course that would work across both campuses? And then it may be that because of the different nights involved, perhaps a one-day kind of a culinary boot camp where students come for a day and they learn all the different techniques. It may be a little bit more practical logistically than 6 different nights trying to get everybody's schedule or how many of those that you do. And on the Arizona campus, we do have a somewhat of an area to do a kitchen, but I would imagine that in Kirksville there'd be several other places. But be happy to discuss that and look at how we could fund that and maybe make that across the whole university as an interprofessional elective offering, or however you might think about that.
Thank you. That's a great idea, great option. Other questions? Well, let's give Jess another round of applause. I think you can see from the reports that we've heard tonight, there's been a lot of excellent work that's taken place in the last 6 months or so. And it's not all done yet based on where the projects are. But it was a great first start. And I think that it really was a wonderful way to focus on innovation in teaching and learning. And in this particular scenario at Kirksville, it happened to be all student teams that were selected. Now, when we go to Mesa, we have 4 winners there, and their report out session is next week. And there are 2 student teams and there are 2 faculty teams there. So it'll be really interesting to hear how their projects went also. But I want to congratulate you. There's been a lot of excellent work here, a lot of wonderful support from your faculty advisors, and let's just give everybody another round of applause. Now, the other thing that I would mention is, particularly Shannon was talking about the opportunity to present or do a poster session. One of the follow-up things that SparkTank is going to do, and I have handouts for each of the teams tonight, is up to a certain level, we will be able to help support some of that travel for presentations. And also, if you have a manuscript accepted within a year's period of time, that there'll be a cash award to each of the writers on that of a certain amount. So I want to say this is not technically done yet. If you follow through and with other opportunities to talk about what you've learned or to present and you're accepted, please reach out to me and let me know so we can talk about it. You'll have the award guidelines tonight to take home with you to kind of think through and to plan out, but I just wanted you to know this is a full circle opportunity for you. It was a full circle opportunity for the Teaching and Learning Center, and we're really delighted to have had the opportunity to sponsor it. So thank you everyone for coming out tonight. There's lots of food and refreshments outside. If you didn't partake, please take it home with you and enjoy. It's good food. Jess would approve of it. It's so thank you so much for coming out tonight.